When I first booted up The Evil Within 2, I was 100% expecting to do its Akumu mode run, which would work the exact same way it does in The Evil Within 1. One hit from anything and you're dead. But then during my D-Rust run through the game, I realized something. It was going to be a lot easier. You see, upgrades work a little differently in this game than The Evil Within 1. Green gel was used for every upgrade in the first game, and in the second game, there's two materials: green gel and weapon parts. Gel is used for Sebastian, weapon parts are for weapons. It's pretty straightforward stuff. The thing is, the Sebastian upgrades are insanely strong. Stealth is already exploitable in The Evil Within 2 and damn near unstoppable when it's upgraded. You can also unlock bullet time. I think you can see how that may make Akumu a little less challenging than in the first game. On top of that, it turns out that there's no achievement for Akumu because it was actually added later to the game as a free DLC update. So now you might be asking yourself, what are we even doing here? Well, The Evil Within 2 has a different difficulty related achievement, Classic Mode. So instead of one-hit kills, I'm dealing with a maximum of 7 saves and no checkpoints across the entire game. Oh, and there's no upgrading allowed at all, Sebastian, or any of the weapons you find. Crafting ammo and healing is still fair game though. So with that all out of the way, here's You Asked For It again.
So glad you could make it. Unfortunately, there's very little I can do for you here. This is a challenge you have to face as you are.
I knew what I got myself into. I'm not worried.
Chapters 1 and 2 are literally just cutscenes and a couple of tutorials. My understanding is that you can actually die during them, but I didn't decide to try it because there's a spattering of non-skippable cutscenes and just random bullshit. That is a total time waste and not fun to sit through. So it's a good thing I didn't die early in this run and have to sit through the intro twice, right? That being said, The Evil Within 2 is structured a little differently than The Evil Within 1 in the way that there's a couple of small tailored open world sections between the more linear parts of the game. You kind of just wander around and loot or do side quests, but beyond grabbing locker keys from the angel statues for extra loot and ammo pouches for stock upgrades, I avoided the side quests altogether. Chapter 3 has the first open world section in the game and would be a great place to use my first save, but I thought I could get away with doing some looting before using that save, and then this happened. Oh god. Oh god. Am I dead? Are you fucking kidding? How does that miss? How does that fucking miss, chat? Seriously, how does that miss? So I sat through the intro again. I only wasted like an hour or two, no big deal. The shotgun, the sniper, and the crossbow are all pretty much immediately available in this chapter, and the pistol doesn't really cut it damage-wise, so I grabbed all of those. Once I felt sufficiently stocked up, I used my first save at the end of Chapter 3, right before the introduction of what I consider to be the most annoying enemy type in the entire game. The Evil Within Wiki says they're called spawn, but I like to call them pieces of shit. They're pretty fast, and with not being able to upgrade stamina, running from them is a pain in the ass. But like most enemies, they are weak to bushes. At the start of Chapter 4, the shooting range gets unlocked in the safe room.
What the hell is this?
It's a chance to test your skills. Step right up and try your luck, detective.
This is insane.
Normally you'd get a mix of all the crafting and upgrade materials depending on how well you do for each minigame, but for classic mode, you obviously can't use gel or weapon parts for upgrades, so they load you up with a silly amount of herbs and gunpowder. Herbs are used for crafting syringes and medkits, and gunpowder is used for almost every type of ammo. So between the herbs I got from the shooting range and the coffee machines in almost every safe room that fully heal you when you drink from them, finding ways to heal myself became kind of trivial early on. Unfortunately, having a lot of healing supplies doesn't always mean you get to use them, especially when enemies get iframes from being stun-locked and when everybody can take you out in a couple hits. Oh, that's no way, dude. Are you? This was death number 2. She didn't get staggered. Fuck. Gotta do it all over again. Okay, so that room I just died in is one of the harder early areas. It's sort of a timed wave survival, deal with different doors opening, unleashing different enemies kind of thing. Luckily, there's a good few enemies here that I was able to wake up from their naps on the floor and take out preemptively. So after that, there's a first-person stealth section that only happens the once. And it uses the same gassy room can't shoot cause Seb go boom boom situation that's in the first game. This one is a lot less exciting than the original though, and there's a fart monster in here. So that's something. Anyways, this all leads us to Chapter 5, which has the first boss fight of the game. This is the Guardian, and we don't fight her. I ran around and grabbed a few supplies that spawned in her arena, but it turns out there's a back door to where I'm trying to go. So instead of trying to kill her, I just have to kill the store in a quick time event instead. And in a true Evil Within moment, there's another boss fight like 5 minutes after this. This fight is just surviving until the timer's up. Once the timer runs out, it's GG. After a brief encounter with a cum monster in chapter 6, I redid the shooting range mini games, and I used my second save right before starting the 7th chapter, which is the second open world segment, by the way. Also, I used the intranet again, and it says the white goopy stuff is actually called psychoplasm, but come on, the devs knew what they were doing. With chapter 7 being another open world bit, I looted the shit out of the city, and the thing here is that there's multiple spots that will trigger a guardian to spawn and start patrolling the streets. You remember the guardian, right? That one boss that we just saw and avoided is now everywhere. Beyond that, there's another run-in with the Obscura, that camera boss that we just dealt with as well, and this one's about as exciting as the initial guardian fight. You can just grab a key and then run away. You'll be happy to know that chapter 8 is all just a boss fight. I mean, there's a stealth section at the start where I have to avoid the light of a camera that would probably kill me if I got caught, but I'm not sure because I've never been caught by it before. And right after that, I actually used my third save because I wasn't confident that Stefano, the main bad guy in the actual boss fight here, couldn't insta-kill me. So his boss fight is a 2-stager and actually not that bad. He doesn't ever shut the fuck up, which is fine because it telegraphs all of his attacks.
What a great shot.
Don't like that, don't like that. The only rough part of this fight is stage 2, where he set up some proximity mines and zoned me into his grab attack. Nope! Fuck! Wait, we lived? That shit would have killed me like 8 times if this was Akumu mode. Anyways, I shot him until he died. First try, baby! Chapter 9 made me realize that The Evil Within 2 is a lot like that third Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, in the way that there's too many main bad guys without enough time to develop them. Long story short, we're tossed in a dungeony type place where we meet Father Theodore, and he introduces the worst enemy type in the game. I take back what I said about the spawn dudes earlier. I still think they're annoying as fuck, but these flame guys are worse. They eat up a shitload of ammo, and they'll randomly light on fire to prevent stealth kills if you have bad timing, and I imagine they're an absolute joy on Akumu mode. Okay, so Chapter 10 does the whole Chapter 6 thing from The Evil Within 1, but it's nowhere near as bad. There's way less enemies, and it's in a bigger building, so it's easier to maneuver in general. I also have an AI partner that can't die, and she has an assault rifle. Okay, so she can go down, but I can heal her, and she goes back to shooting and taking the aggro. The next bit of this chapter heavily suggests stealth, but take a look at this. Get him, Torres, get him. Get him, Torres. The other guy doesn't care? Okay. Once that was over, I used save 4 out of 7, and it was time for chapter 11. This is another chapter where there's like one room to do some stuff in and then a boss fight. Please open, please open. Okay, so I expected the flamethrower boss called the Harbinger to give me some trouble, but like Stefano, it really wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Even with the limited stamina that Seb has in classic mode, didn't really have any problems kiting him around and laying into him.
You think you're too good to fight me?
No, I'm a coward. Hey! Wow, he was really easy. I was worried about that fight. Chapter 12 is maybe the weakest chapter across both Evil Within games. It's a really dumb, really short hike through a poorly lit blood area with a spattering of enemy types. You open a single gate, you follow a radio signal, and run down some stairs. That's it. Chapter 13 starts with the lady from the cabin in Chapter 10 having died. But that's fine because I get her gun and it's the last open world segment as well. Since I was avoiding side quests though, there wasn't really a lot to do here besides getting acquainted with suicide bomber enemies that almost caused my third death. Please no. What? Oh, Jesus. Am I alive? I'm alive. I don't know how, but I'm alive. Yeah, we're still only at 2 deaths. After those shenanigans, it was time for save number 5 because this next part can be a bit of a doozy. There's waves of those fire guys attacking me while I have to escort someone while they escort me. You know what? It makes more sense if you've played the game. The point is that there's wave after wave of these fire dudes, and the flip side here though is that they have less health than normal. So they die easier, but they do their usual damage. After that, it's chapter 14, and I'm in the home stretch. There's a total of 17 chapters in The Evil Within 2, but it really doesn't feel like that at all. The first bit of this chapter, there's a room loaded with those fire boys and a flamethrower gamer. I remember hating this room from my first playthrough, but during my derust, I found out that you can just walk around the perimeter, pull a lever, and then run to the exit. All right, we're free. There is this one part though where you have to wait for an elevator to come down and you get gooned on by some spawns, but this is the last time they show up in the game, so whatever, man. And now it's time for the best part of the game. This is like the best, like, it's cathartic, I think is the word I'm looking for.
Yes, you remember it all.
You get to fight the bosses from the first game again. Yeah, I honestly think that the best part of this game is when you get to play the first one again. I mean, come on, get a load of this.
Enough of this shit! Not this time. Fuck you.
Also, the Keeper 100% had me dead to rights here. Oh, unfortunate! Oh, I'm very dead, dude. Oh, I shouldn't be alive! Okay, and then Laura's always fun to light on fire. Good times. I used my second to last save at the start of chapter 15, which is pretty much all padding in my opinion. There's some crusty white enemies that just feel like tankier reskins of the basic enemies from before, and then a mini boss that actually is decently challenging in terms of everything else we fought throughout the game.
Oh god.
After killing all that shit though, it's pretty much just running an extra story exposition until the final boss. There is one last save room, and this is where I used all my leftover crafting materials and final save. Last save, chat! Last save, bro. Chapter 16 is a final boss fight against Seb's wife Myra, which is pretty easy as well. The typical shoot the glowing weak point sort of shenanigans. And then there's this gross part where her belly pops open. There we go. Watch your belly gets all big, chat. This is so gross. Look. I think that's a fetish. So you would think that that's the end of the game, but the actual last thing the game has you do is chapter 17, where you fucking peek shoot some bodyguards with Kidman in the real world. It's kind of hilarious, and I actually figured out if you spam aim and fire at the same time, you can't really get hit. And yes, this is as bad as a turret section. And that's the Evil Within 2 Classic mode. 2 deaths over the course of a 10-hour run is a little less than the 350 I took on Evil Within 1 during Akumu mode, but you know, it was still an alright challenge, even if it was a lot easier. It was definitely more stressful with the knowledge that dying could tank an hour or two of progress. So this isn't a review or anything, but I just wanted to say that after playing through this game and getting its hardest achievement, I still think that the Evil Within 1 is the better game. Sure, the Evil Within 2 is more modern and plays better with like a lot of refined ideas from the first, but I think everything else is lacking. The story in particular is a bit of a shit show. Even though I barely knew what was going on in the first game, I still kind of felt like it had rules, and this game felt like it threw all those rules out the window. Also, this game just felt slow comparatively, even though it was a much shorter game. There was constantly something happening in the Evil Within 1, and here it kind of felt like a lot of running from point A to point B across the open maps, which was kind of boring. And then there's the whole lack of creative areas when you did get to the more linear parts. I don't think it's a bad game by any means, it's just lacking the charm of the first one. I stream this all live on Twitch, so you can catch me there if you want to see one of these live. Thanks for watching.